Welcome! You're cooking with Mrs. Salisbury. Today we'll be making a butter crust. Actually, we'll be making two single shell for pies or a galette. Today I'm going to show you how to do a single pie crust and one for an apple galette for later on another cooking show. So first, let's start out with this gorgeous butter crust. It tastes so fine. We'll need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 1 cup. I'm going to have 1 more cup here for our 2 cups. Take the knife upside down, level it off. There's our 2 cups of flour. There we go. And I'm going to move this over to the side. I also have some flour here, I don't know, about 3/4 a cup for rolling out. We won't necessarily use all of it. Okay? In this, I will need 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of salt. And I need, remember, it's for 2 crusts, so I'm going to need 1 cup of salted butter, and it must be cold. So I just got this out of the refrigerator, so I have 2 cubes, which is 1 cup. 2 cubes, I sliced it, and then I cut it in half for smaller pieces. So I have 1 cup of salted butter. Set this over. Now you can cut it in with a fork. As long as you don't warm it up too much, you can also do it with your hands. I'm going to mix that salt around here a little bit while I'm at it, distribute that salt, and then I'm going to cut the butter into the flour mixture. I don't want you to make a dough with this because we need to add our ice water. So the least you handle it, the better, but we can still use our hands because I think it's actually fastest. So you'll see here in a second. We're going to cut the fat into the flour so it's evenly distributed, and it looks like about the size of small peas. Some people say cornmeal. It's usually more like the size of small peas, I think. So let's cut this fat in. That way it's evenly distributed. Now remember, it's for 2, not for 1, so don't be alarmed by the butter. All right, I'm going to turn that around here a little bit. Make sure you go down the bottom. The butter must be cold though, not room temperature at all. Okay, that's perfect. Now, that was easy. Next I need a 1/2 cup of ice water, not cold but ice. So I have ice water, so I had cold water, I put ice in. I'm going to take this ice cube out. Remember, you need to get down eye level to see if it's even. It's right at a 1/2 cup. Pour it in all at once. Then now I'm going to use the fork because I don't want to wear it. So mix it with the fork. The ice water helps bind the fat. And that's exactly what we want. We don't ever want to overwork a pie crust. We do not want to have that gluten developed. The fat, the butter, actually inhibits gluten in pie crust, and that's what we want. So I've already made a dough. I'm just going to barely knead it in the bowl. Barely knead it just a tiny bit in the bowl. Just a little. So it's going to form the shape of a log. Then I will cut it in half. I'm going to set this one over to the side. You will need to flour the board, not too much, but just a little bit. Then I'm going to knead it lightly on the board until I get the shape of a disc. So I'm using the heel of my hand. I need to get the shape of the disc. So you have to knead it a tiny bit, but not over, especially with the butter. So now I kind of do like the shape of a mushroom. I go around, kind of shaping it like a mushroom. Like this. I'll over accentuate. Then a disc. Put a little bit of flour on top. Now to roll it out, you need to have a tiny bit of flour. You need to roll it into an oval. Go all the way at the end. Go all the way at the end. Stop. Then I need you to pick it up. Dust the counter with a little bit of flour. I have plastic wrap on mine. A tiny bit on top. Then I need you to roll it the other way then I need you to stop and pick it up. I usually stop and turn it 3 times. Tiny bit of flour, pick it up. Now, at this point, I think of spokes of a wheel. So start in the middle and go out like spokes of a wheel. So go forward, backward, like spokes of a wheel. You can go around it. And this is a beautiful pie crust, and you're gonna love the flavor. I just moved it a second. So if you want it round, you've got to go like spokes of a wheel from the center out. That has a tiny tear in it, so I just patted it. We're fine. Look how beautifully, how fast that rolls out. It's got to be cold, and you can't overwork. Let go of a quick bread, as I always say. So just a tiny bit extra here. Okay, if you want to know whether it's going to fit your pie pan, pick your pie pan up, upside down, and set it here. If it extends outside your pie pan, like this does, you'll know it's working. Now, I put a tiny bit of flour back on this because I'm going to fold it in thirds. Tiny bit of flour, fold it again. I'm going to move my plastic wrap and put my pie pan right here. I'll turn it this way so you can see it. I drape it over the edge, and then I lift it up, and then you have to let it settle down in that pie pan. Don't stretch it because it'll bake that way and shrink. So let it settle down in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the whole inside, and I'm going to press it firmly around the inside. And if you have extra, don't worry, we can cut that off, but we need to double it so we can crimp it. So right here, that's perfect. I can fold that over to crimp it. I always think of it as the edge of the pie crust like as a fence, because it helps hold the filling in. Makes a nice pretty edge too. Look at this all the way around. See, I'm doubling it. Now there's extra here. Since there's extra here, I can just cut off a little bit, but not right at the edge. I can cut off just a little bit, and then I can fold that in, and that makes the edge a little bit stronger. But don't pull it up from the bottom because we need it to set down inside here. Now at this point, I'm going to show you how to crimp the edge of the crust. So I bring it up to the edge, and then I do this movement so it hangs onto the edge of the top of the pie pan. This is an Emile Henri pie pan. It's very nice, and it's a nice deep dish one. I'll use this probably for a pecan pie. I'll show you how to do on my next show. So again, see how I'm bringing that back up? I'm pushing on the inside here, and I'm bringing it back up because I need it to kind of hang on to the outside edge. Before you would bake this butter crust, it needs to be cold, and if it's a soupy pie, pumpkin, pecan, sweet potato, quiche, custard, you need to pre-bake this butter crust or it'll slide right down to the bottom. So you need to pre-bake it, and I will show you in my next segment on pecan pie as well as other pies that you need to put foil in here, fill it all the way up to the top with dry beans, you know, a couple packages like that, and that holds it in shape, and you'll bake that at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. And that will partially bake that pie crust so it'll hold in shape before we put in, as I call it, the soupy fillings. Okay, let me just look at this a quick second. And if you freeze this, you just need to wrap it really well, put it in the freezer. I'm just moving that over to the edge a bit. And then you could bring it out, thaw it, but it can't be warm because that butter will slide. There you go, that fast. Let's wrap it up, and I'm going to show you how to make a galette. So I'm going to use a couple pieces of plastic wrap here, and I'm going to do one going the other way. I want to make sure I seal it. Ready to go. I'll put this in the refrigerator. I'm going to put my plastic wrap right back over and we'll roll this out. But this I'm going to turn into a galette. My grandma, my Mimi, called them flot pies. In France they call them galettes. I'm going to show you how to freeze the dough, how to make it ahead of time, freeze it, so then you could bring it out, slice your apples, and then put it in our wonderful crust, our butter crust. Let me show you how to do it. So we'll do the same thing, except I'm going to have a bit smaller pan, because that other was a deep dish. This is just a regular pie pan, about a 10-inch pie pan. Okay, so I'm going to put a tiny bit of flour down below, some on top. Again, I'll roll it into my oval. Then I'm going to pick it up, but when I pick it up, I have to put some flour, turn it the opposite way. Some people don't understand why the pie dough keeps going. Oh, there's a flick of stuff. Pie dough keeps rolling around the rolling pin, and that's because they don't pick it up and turn it. You have to pick it up and turn it, but you have to flour it on the top and bottom when you do. But I don't want too much flour, just a little bit. Okay, let's pick it up and turn it. A little bit of flour. There we go. Now remember, we talked about spokes of a wheel. Start in the middle and go out. So we'll go out this way, this way. This is so fast to roll out because it's a beautiful pie crust, and it's the right portion of fat to flour to liquid. And we have that ice water that binds the fat. Oh my gosh, look at this. Wow. Okay, remember I said put a little bit of flour because we're going to do it in thirds. I'll turn it this way so you can see. This time I'm going to let it hang over more. I'll go like this. If it tears a bit like that don't worry, you can just pinch it closed. So I need to press it around the inside of that pie pan, around the inside. I don't want it to pull. Now, how would I freeze that? I have a way. Watch this. I'm going to have 2 pieces of plastic wrap, and I made them extra long, as you see. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it in, take it, fold it in over the top of the plastic wrap, and we can freeze it that way. Now I need to wrap all this in plastic wrap. And one around, because it's going to go to the freezer. And one around this way. Now, what's going to happen is when I freeze this, I have to bring it out, let it thaw, or let it thaw in the refrigerator. Either way, I don't want it warm. As soon as it's thawed enough, then I can unfold it, have my apples already sliced, tossed with my cinnamon and brown sugar and a little bit of flour, mount it in here, fold the crust over. I'll show you how to do that on our apple galette show. I hope you enjoyed cooking with Mrs. Salisbury. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe and like me.